we're live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Lev Remembers. It's Monday. I hope you had some sort of a calm weekend. I know it's hard to say that with a lot of the crazy stuff that's happening in our world and what we're dealing with. It's hard to enjoy, hard to take a walk away from the news cycle for a second and try to have a normal day or a normal weekend. But as I told you on Friday, you need to try because, sanity, and that's what we got. One of the incredible world-renowned cult specialist, psychiatrist, Dr. Steven Hassan here, that is not only an author, but he's somebody that was in a cult himself, somebody that lived it, experienced it. And that's something that is important here on Love Remembers that we always talk about is we're not just pundits. I try to bring you an inside look from people from the inside, people that have lived a life, have been a part of it, and give you an experience and perception of not just of somebody that wants to write a book or give you an idea of what they or opinion, because we all have opinions, and sometimes educated opinions are good opinions, and that is part of life. But there's nothing like somebody that actually lived it, done it, survived it, and could tell you his personal stories. And that's why my dear friend Steven's here. Thank you for joining us. He came on special quick notice. He had a very busy schedule, but I called him up and I asked him to please join us because today I wanted to talk about something extremely important, something that I've been watching happen, play out over the weekend. Compared to everything else, when you say important, everything is important. We have so much important stuff happening. You tend to forget what's more important than the other thing. Is Europe? Is it our rights? Is it the attack on humanity? What is the most important? Hey, Nick, how are you? Nick Parrow here. Shout out to Nick. But what I saw this weekend was really important. Somebody that's also been part of the cult, living in mega cult, living in that environment, being part of it, getting out of it, and being, somebody that speaks out to it. What I saw happen this weekend and is transpiring scared me. And that's why I wrote that my Substack article today. For those of you that have not read it yet, please make sure you go read it. It's called The Last Warning, The Perfect Storm. And kind of, if you've seen the movie The Perfect Storm, this is what I'm seeing transpire in our world of cultism. What I'm starting to see and what scared me and why I wanted you on here and discuss this is that Donald Trump has used the vacuum of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And by the empowerment of not only Donald Trump, but who's really coming out of the woodworks on this is Stephen Miller, is taking a major, major role that people are reading. And they're turning him into a martyr. And they're using this, and I broke it. My sources told me the night of, literally, when Trump called to console Erica, he literally, in not so many ways, asked her to continue the movement and had her come out do the speech. That's why you had Vance bring the body back, corral her, and we're going to go into all of that, her speech and all of that. But what I'm seeing and what is scary and what is that they're not only, like, I'm seeing the Epstein stuff and everything starting to basically die out and being forgiven, and what we've seen, the cracks and the disappearance of MAGA that we've been talking about for the past several weeks, all the positive. And now I'm saying, see a formation of a super cult, like, even something more dangerous, more powerful, more stronger, where now you have Charlie Kirk's religion, the strength of, because you have religious cults, now you have a political cult, and now ideological cult, and now you have a combination of all of them coming together to form this something, really, really scary.
Yeah, so let me just say I've been a fan of yours since you came out and said you were in the cult of Trump and you regret it. And I'm very grateful to you and love the work that you've been doing. I love your son's work as well. I listen to him regularly. He's always a voice of reason and sanity and doesn't overplay anything. He's very level. headed. And I did a video the morning after the assassination. I really questioned myself whether I should or not, but I felt like I wanted to. Apparently, it's gone viral. But I was basically decrying political violence first and foremost, because that's not okay. Even with people that say that I'm the enemy and I'm the devil, etc., it's still not okay to assassinate anyone. But literally, Lev, my first instinct was, because Kirk had been so vocal about Epstein, because he and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's apparently walking it back, but he was like, because that was the movement, was based on exposing the deep state and getting the democratic traffickers. My first instinct was to say it was somebody on Trump's side that killed him. I didn't say Trump killed him, but somebody who didn't want him to continue pressuring about releasing all the Epstein information. That was my instinct. So what do we see? We know human nature, and whenever there is an attack, a violent attack, people sympathize with the grieving wife and the family, and it was a horrible act. However, if we stop talking about Epstein, we're serving Trump's cause, because we really want to remind all of the MAGA believers that he ran on exposing the swamp and getting rid of the deep state, etc. He is the deep state, and he is really been caught in his lies around this topic, because everyone got into QAnon on the trafficking issue, right? And and Murdoch and releasing the birthday book, etc. All of these victims coming out, and then the vote in Congress is very, very important. Well, let me just take a minute, because I don't know how many of your followers, beyond what you said in my kind introduction about being in the Moonies, but it happened to me, and I became a fanatic, and I was groomed to leadership. And in some weird way, I hesitate to associate myself with Stephen Miller, but I was a spokesperson for the cult, making excuses and saying we need to fast for Nixon during Watergate. And I hated Nixon's guts before. As Vance said, he didn't like Trump before, etc. So, because I know how the mind can get hacked and how dependent we are on information, and how internet, social media is using our personalized data to hack our minds, my work, I feel my lane is explaining psychology, and I love that you were saying stay sane, go have fun on the weekend. You have to have a life too, and not just be addicted to the platforms and such. It's so vital now for people to understand this is psychological warfare is being played out on us.
That's right.
And what Putin is doing now with Poland and NATO, he knows that, even though Trump is saying we're going to sanction oil, bullshit, pardon me for cursing, nonsense. This is a distraction. Putin's just testing the waters to see whether or not there will be any resistance from NATO, because he knows the U.S. won't come to the help of NATO, even though we've sworn the pact in Article 5, I believe it's called. So we are in a very, very problematic moment. And we don't want to get distracted from our values. And we have the government potentially defaulting in a few weeks. And what Trump wants to do is to blame the Democrats. That was what Trump said the first minute he heard about the assassination. We're the devils.
The,
We're Satan, and we're all of us killed him, not a single disturbed young man who was a gamer
and
and apparently a Nick Fuentes follower.
and that's what I wanted to ask you, Doctor. I mean, because that's something important what you just said, and this is what I want to touch up is the message that you're getting from all of them, not just from Donald Trump, but it's Donald Trump, even his wife, and this is his wife Erica, said the same thing. They, them, the evildoers, the Democrats, the leftists today. JD Vance, which I'm going to talk about later on, did a Charlie Kirk show and basically went on a whole, had guests, Stephen Miller and others on there talking about, again, the Democrats, the mind programming, the psychological warfare, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the truth, what's coming out. The truth is what they're painting the truth to be right now. And that's what we did when I was part of the mega cult. That's how we manipulated others, because most people will never get that much opportunity to be able to explain the slide that they're hearing in the headlines over the weekend 24/7, that the Democrats did this, that they did this, that it's us against them, that it's a war, that and building in more and more and more and more of a division. And this is where I want to ask your opinion, which is the scary part. Because the one thing that had me, and what I would tell my subscribers, my followers, and one of the things that part of getting our democracy back was the division and the cracks that started transpiring in Megaland, in between it, because you had different groups. Like, for instance, you just mentioned Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is a totally separate white supremacist group that which I've written about, the Groypers, which
Right.
I don't even want to say his name to give him the highlight, but the assassin, we have pictures of him. We have, his mother even talking about of him dressing up as a gropier and following him. But the way the narrative now is being painted, and it's painted over time, because strategically, because they have it, the DOJ is controlled by them. They have all the information. Instead of telling you exactly what's happening up, they're allowing leaks, strategical,
Right.
psychological leaks, to constantly hit the news waves, where it forces not only the right-wing mega media to talk about it, but also it forces every news, even us, everybody, to talk about it.
Mm.
And when you start talking about it and you don't explain it like we are here and giving, the full explanation, but you just throw headlines out there and you talk about us, them, or, breaking at 7, how the left wing, or we're finding out, breaking that he was living with a transgender person, or breaking, there might be a transgender, and that's all people hear, the
Right.
psychological. So when the truth comes out, the truth is so minimal. Nobody wants to listen to it, because nobody has the patience or time to even deal with it, because they've already been programmed.
Right. So let me share a true story for your listeners. I rarely have talked about this publicly, but in the summer of 2015, Lev, I was invited to an invitation-only State Department counterterrorism meeting to discuss countering ISIS recruitment online. Rich
No.
Stengel led the meeting. Charlie Firestone, Madeleine Albright, Walter Isaacson, Monica Bigart of Facebook was there. Scott Armstrong of Google was there. A lot of very big people. And it was there that I listened to a man who had a supercomputer system explain memetic warfare for the first time. And this man, his name was Nova Spivak, had been hired to track ISIS recruitment in order to explain how they were being successful. And the central metaphor, Lev, was, he said, think about STDs. And we all were like, sexually transmitted diseases? What do you mean? He said, the more sex you have with someone with syphilis, the more likely you are to get it. He said, if you understand how ISIS recruits. They have deceptive front groups, whether it's a dating app or a gaming thing or whatever, and they find somebody and they start surrounding them with not just believers, but also people pretending to be, searching and just like the person. And it's a very systematic recruitment and indoctrination process that gets more and more intense over time. No destructive cult says, "Hi, I want to recruit you into an
Right.
authoritarian cult where you give up your free will and turn your back on your values and your religion and your family and your country." So it's done in steps and stages. But what I want to explain to your listeners is this was 2015, and this man showed us, he took Madeleine Albright, who was sitting there, and showed us what she had said online, because he put it in the filter, and he could show us in 20 languages what people were saying about Madeleine Albright. And we were like, whoa. And he said, you can track a meme, whether it's going to increase or decrease. And if you see a meme that's increasing, you have to create a sticky alternative meme that distracts everybody. So they move off of that meme to another meme. And I said and he said, Steve, they've invited me to DC to present my company, and I want to add slides on you because you're the cult expert. I said, okay with me. Anyway, he said, they didn't buy my system. I said, Nova, there's a presidential election next year. What are you going to do? He said, oh, Hillary's people only want to give us $10,000 a month. We can't pay our electrical bill for that. And I said, Nova, I hope you don't go to the dark side. And he said, I don't want to go to the dark side, but I have partners. And guess what? The company got sold. And ever since Donald Trump started running for the presidency, remember when he was the outlier? They've been using memetic warfare,
I remember
using Facebook hacked data
Brad
from
Pascal.
Cambridge Analytica. We now have Sarah Wynne Williams, a whistleblower from Facebook, who agreed. She was there when Pascal came into Facebook, inside of Facebook, and they used all of this hacked personal data that Carol Cadwalladr wrote about in The Guardian. And people don't understand, because there's never been data privacy in the United States, that there are 5,000 data points on every one of us that are in the dark web. And with AI supercomputers, they can target people en masse. And when you want to mind control people, you want to know the number one thing you want to do first? Confuse them.
That's right.
Disrupt their sense of reality
That's right.
by giving them dissonant information overloading. That's another technique that they love to do, and they love to project. So Donald Trump tried to do a violent coup January 6th. It was the Antifa doing the violent coup and the Democrats and the lefties doing it. They were the patriots, the ones who were criminals that he unconditionally pardoned. But what I'm trying to do in my work as a former, member of a cult and as a survivor, once you understand the techniques, they lose their power because you can name them. You can say, oh, that's this technique. Oh, that's that technique. And it dissipates the power. But I want to say something categorical here, and that is, you really want to use words properly. Like if you're going to use a word like alternate facts, you have to call them a lie and not use the loaded term alternate facts. It's a lie.
That's right.
It's disinformation.
It's
You have to
information. Call it
Label
what it
it.
is. Label, call it what it is, and that
Yeah,
is, and that is the problem with what the media doesn't do. The media plays around it, and he's controlling them by scaring them from suing them to threatening them
right.
to literally coming out and saying that he wants to take away licenses. And by the way, for those of you that have not read this, I recommend you go out there and get read The Cult of Trump. It
Well, I'm
is.
holding it up, Lev, on purpose because you're talking about the media controlling the narrative. I used to be on TV all the time and print media. Every cult story, they got a quote from me. When this came out, blacklisted,
Yeah, my book also.
blacklisted.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is Simon and Schuster. This is a serious book that explains what the hell's happening. There are religious cults that are in the cult of Trump. New Apostolic Reformation has 30 to 40 million Americans in these mega churches run by people claiming to be apostles or prophets. And it's these people who are cult leaders who say, God told me Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Don't believe the satanic media, right? So you need to understand your thesis about what's happening today is just an amplification. When this came out 6 years ago initially, it got re-released before the last election with George Conway's kind forward. But we really need to understand what is psychological warfare. How do we tell the difference between ethical influence and unethical
Oh,
influence?
this
This
is
is
great. Please, can you
a
tell us?
free graphic. It's backwards because it's mirrored, but people need to understand ethical influence is here. Authoritarian mind control influence is here. You can go to freedomofmind.com and download this for free. But it's a framework of values, like legitimate religions give you informed consent when they're recruiting. Destructive cults lie, or they withhold vital information or distort information. Ethical religious groups are love-based. They want you to use your conscience. They want you to be creative. They want you to be close to your family and your community. Mind control groups want obedience, dependency, fear, and that's where the BITE model explains behavior control, information, thought, and emotional control. And this is another model that I did my doctoral work on. And you can just tick these off. If a group is legitimate, it won't be sleep depriving you. It won't be putting phobias in your minds that if you think for yourself, only bad things are going to happen. And this is what's missing in the discourse today is actually explaining to all people who are activists, we need to get our act together in terms of what is the messaging that's going to really make the difference. And in my opinion, we're living in an age of psychological memetic warfare. We got to explain it to people in a very down to earth way where they can explain it to their family and their friends and their children, because we need to protect our minds and we have to stay value centered.
You know what the problem is, Doc, and a lot of people, even our own people on our own side, are scared to call it a cult. They try to, find different ways of discussing it. When I go on their shows and when I try to make a point and I say it, and I know you get the same type of, and you've been seeing it and hearing it. People are trying to somehow, weave around it. I don't know what the right word is, but I
Don't
agree.
use the word cult. If people don't like the
But
word
but
cult,
but,
that's
but you have
fine.
but
But I say cults exist on the whole continuum. There are very ethical groups of people who are passionate about, and people have asked me, are Swifties, are they in a cult? And I'm like, absolutely, but they know what they're getting into. They love her music. No one's coercing them. Nobody's separating them from their families. There's no phobias. So, but if cult word is the problem, don't use it. Talk about psychological warfare. Talk about coercion. Talk about propaganda. Talk about, but literally, Lev, we're living in the age of psychological warfare. That's
Absolutely.
what is happening. And Russia has a master at using hypnosis and active measures, what they call active measures. And I have another story I want to share with your
Please,
listeners since you're
please.
bringing me on, and they'll probably love this. But way back in 2017, when we first heard the first tweet about QAnon, I had met Gregory Hausch, who was one of the first people in Anonymous because they took on Scientology and they got people protesting Scientology with Guy Fawkes masks from the movie V and
Right.
everything. But they got thousands of people around the world to protest. They said, "Hey, Greg, this QAnon thing, like, have you heard, these people?" He says, "Oh, I know those three guys." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, it was a total goof on the Trumpers." And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah. And then they realized they could make a lot of money selling merch." And I said, "Yeah." And then the Russians got involved, he said. I said, "Hey, Greg, would you say that on camera?" He said, "No."
That's right.
But we now know the Russians took this QAnon thing as a psyop, a psychological warfare operation, and they amplified it. And guess what? Michael Flynn was at the very beginning. We've done forensic evaluation on Twitter, and he was the person that was involved from the beginning. And guess what? He was involved for the US government doing psychological warfare operations on other countries using fourth generation and fifth generation psychological warfare techniques. But then he started doing it on American public because he got co-opted into believing God wants a theocracy and democracy is satanic, which is what I believed in the Moonies, by the way. I heard Moon himself say democracy is satanic. We need to infiltrate the government and set up a theocracy. And I'm talking now 50 years ago, this is what I was hearing. And it's happening today. So you can imagine how frustrated and upset I am.
It's crazy to see how we're going back instead of forward and so quickly. It took us so many, and that's one of the things I wrote about. It took us so many years, decades, centuries to achieve certain rights, certain achievements, to see it being all crumbled and being taken back so quickly. Literally, it hasn't even been a year into his presidency. We're like 9 months in, and the destruction that we're seeing is. And like you said, Russia was involved. I mean, they're involved right now also. You have Medvedev and my sources and telling me they're using this Charlie Kirk thing to more divisiveness and divide the United States by putting up saying that it was the same deep left that killed Charlie Kirk are the same people that are supporting Zelensky in Ukraine, and comparing the two
Yep.
that are doing it together.
So I want to quote a 1954 book, a book that I read when I first got out of the Moonies, because I was like devouring everything I could find on brainwashing and mind control and cults. It's called The True Believer by Eric Hoffer. In 1954, he said, and this, he was spot on. He was writing mostly about communism, but he said the strength of a mass movement can be determined by the vividness and tangibility of its devil.
Wow.
So if you talk to MAGA people, they really are convinced that Democrats are satanic, have demons.
Absolutely.
And that's what I believed as a Moonie. Anyone who was against us
I believed it as a mega.
was Satan.
I believed it as mega. That's why
Right.
I believe that there was a deep state. I believe that, they were, the Clintons, and, I did never went as far as QAnon, never went as far as, drinking blood, eating babies, and any of that crazy stuff that QAnon.
But there
I
never
mean, so
was people
right,
drinking
right,
blood. That was part of
right.
the reboot of the Elders of the Protocols of Zion and anti-Semitic, czarist propaganda bullshit thing. Pardon me, I cursed the second time now. But I'm passionate and I'm upset as hell. And people need to understand there's a lot more of us than them. And just because they have control of the media largely doesn't mean they're going to win. But if we give up hope, if we stop resisting and putting out grounded messaging, is everything okay? I can see myself, but you are having an issue over there. I'll keep talking while I wait for you to come back. But I really believe in the power of the human spirit, because nobody wants to be exploited and manipulated and lied to. And people leave destructive cults, even if they've been in them for decades, when they understand how they've been manipulated and controlled. And the other thing I want to say while we're waiting for your
Do you hear me?
yes, I can
Do you
hear
hear
you
me?
now. I can't see
Oh,
you yet.
I can't. I don't know what's going on. Technology,
You're getting
technology is
hacked.
nothing.
That's I
I
hate
start.
to reach a negative assumption, but that's the
Oh
time
my
we're
God.
living in, where we're getting censored by the powers that be. But
I don't know
what I
what's
wanted
going.
to say is there are tens of millions of ex-cult members out there, former Mormons, and the shooter was from a Mormon, devout Mormon family, and I've done a lot of work with people in that organization who go through my bite model and say the Mormon church, the LDS church, is an authoritarian cult, mind control cult. But there are millions of us, and what we are lacking, Lev, is a consistent narrative. Like the right wing gets everybody to say the same message and repeat it over and over again. Former members, we're all cats, and we all are not wanting to follow any central direction. And so there are all these little silos happening, but we really need to get it together and agree on what is brainwashing, what is mind control. Lev needs an IT assistant. I agree. You know what? There's a
Yeah,
new Mac
I need that.
update. There's a security update that just came out a few hours ago. I wonder if the Chinese are hacking that or the Russians are hacking that.
Ye- I think Trump is. I mean, every time it doesn't matter where I'm speaking on X, any platform. When I start talking, constantly something I don't know. Can't be me. I know. I'm not. Definitely, I need IT help. Definitely, I'm not an IT guy, but it can't just be me. Because I didn't do anything. We were just there, and all of a sudden, it
Right.
just went. Hey, but let me ask you this question, because some of our subscribers have been asking me this question, and I
Sure.
really don't know. I want to hear how to what's your opinion of, because you also said when you mentioned the Swifties. So a lot of people say, well, are all cults bad? Are there good cults? Are we a cult by what we're doing
There
here at
are good
Sunfire?
cults in my
So tell us,
professional.
so tell us, what is that like? Because people say, are we a cult that we sit here and we follow you, or somebody else, or on Substack, as like what is? Because that's why when I go on and I say MAGA is a cult, and people get mad, I don't understand why. Because it's a terminology of a group of people, what they believe and their mindset on a certain thing. No, can you explain that to us, Doc?
Sure. And I can say that this is my opinion based on my 50 years of experience. And, I've written books and done TEDx talks. But my take is because the word culture, cults come out of the word culture. And if you're in a culture, you're in a cult. So the issue for me isn't whether it's a cult or not, it's whether it's an authoritarian mind control cult. That's where I am critical, not that you're in a cult. So I've said I've been quoted in a book called The Cult of Mac. And literally, you can buy the book and see me as a follower because I've only used Apple products since 1982. And so, and Windows people were like, they got you. You're in a cult. And I'm like, so what? I like the product. This is what I'm comfortable with. People say you're a scuba diver. You're in the cult of scuba diving. Guilty. I'll talk about diving with anybody, anywhere, and talk about favorite places and most amazing experiences. I even wrote a fun blog when I did my first TEDx talk. I said, I'm in the cult of TEDx because I love watching TED Talks. I love learning. So people are going to react to words, and I say if a word doesn't work, don't use it. And when I wrote The Cult of Trump, I said to my agent, I said to Simon and Schuster, it's going to alienate all the people who are following Trump. And they said they're not going to read your book anyway. We want to write the book for everyone else. And they persuaded me in terms of the marketing. But would I write the book calling it the same title again if I could go back in time? Probably not. But they really thought it would be a multi-million copy seller because the truth is when the draft went out, every single media in the world wanted to interview me about what was substantively in the book because I demystify it. And I start the book back in 1928, Book of Propaganda by Edward Bernays. And I explain my story and I explain Trump grew up in a cult of Norman Vincent Peale. And I compare Trump with Jim Jones and Moon and Hubbard of Scientology in chapter 3. I talk about all the cults that are puppet masters over Donald Trump, putting Putin at the top of the chapter, and Opus Dei, and a cult called the Family. And so it unpacks things. And so I really want to encourage people who want to have a real foundation to understand this phenomenon of what we're experiencing to read the book. It will give you a framework.
Absolutely. I want to ask you because for some reason my technology today is completely off, and it now looks like my phone is about to turn off for some reason. So just in case we lose,
Is it charged?
It's charged. I don't know what's going on right now. I gotta take up. But I want to ask you, can we maybe reschedule something for in the next couple of days because I
would
think this
love
is such an
to.
important topic.
Lev,
Yeah.
I love you, and
Oh, I
honestly,
love you.
I
Thank you,
really
Don.
think we need to support Ukraine, and I want to
Yes,
do more messaging about what Russia is
and
is amplifying the attacks now on Ukraine because they know they have Trump in his hip pocket, in Putin's pocket. So
oh, it's we're gonna talk about a lot of that stuff, especially Ukraine, because I actually, since you mentioned that, I want to give an update to all our followers. I just got off the phone with Ben Mycelis from the Midas guys, and we're working actively, and we are going to be, collectively with the Midas guys and the Midas network, putting together a Ukrainian channel that's going to devote strictly for information to Ukraine, since the media is not reporting on it. But a lot of information that's going to be on there. So we're definitely working behind the scenes to do that.
great.
And you are
Great, but we
definitely.
need you for our stuff too, Lev. Don't only do that, please.
No, no. My first loyalty comes here to my family here, to our family at Substack. I tell you, it's so hilarious. I didn't. I was never a social media guy. My son told me, "Dad, you got to come to Substack." And since I've come to Substack, and this community has become more than it's become my family. It's become, I read every email, I read every DM, and I feel with every person's pain, and we go through together, and we become one huge family, and we've become a movement and the resistance to what's out there. And that's why, people, you're part of this family. We're all in this together.
And
So,
my people told me I have to be on Substack, and I was like, and now I'm on Substack. And we just posted an interview, very important one in terms of the shooter, both Vance Belter, who killed Hortman in Wisconsin, and this current shooter. An interview with a former cult member, John Collins. A very important interview. It's on my Substack now, and I too am asking for subscribers, so to try to get more amplification of the work. So thank you for inviting me, and I'd love to have you come on mine. And I'd love to
absolutely.
come back on yours, and lots to talk about.
Doctor, absolutely. That's part of the Substack family. And I could tell you, I could promise you, our family here is going to show you some love. Everybody, make sure you go out and subscribe. It's a Dr. Hassan. Go up there, right on top there. You click on that. You hit subscribe. Subscriptions are for free. And for those of you that can, I always say, go the extra mile, that become paid subscribers, allows us to be able to do this 24/7, give you this valuable information that the media
Yep.
is not talking about, won't talk about. You won't hear this anywhere else. This is the real threat that's going on right now. The cracks that we've been seeing and we've been hearing about, that the Epstein files have caused, now they're trying to cover it all up and trying to basically put together a super cult unified by different
Well, they're
ideology,
trying.
but we won't
Don't
let them.
let's not let them.
We won't let them. That's why we are here. We are strong. We will win. We will prevail, and that's why we're here giving the information. And
And
I'm so,
prevailing is getting people to reality test and leave and join us against authoritarian mind control.
absolutely. And on that note, guys, I apologize for the technology, but this is live Substack. Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. San. And we were going to be putting this out to everybody that came on late. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow, make sure to support our mission to speak truth to power and to be able to save our democracy. Thank you. Have a great day.
Well, it's a pleasure. See ya. Thanks again. Bye.